بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم من الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We don't live in a Muslim majority country. This is our country, we love our country, but as a religious community, we are a minority. So what happens when people become Muslim in this country? Well, they become Muslim, which is great. And then if they're neglected from the point of view that no one's bringing them into our community, no one's teaching them, no one's showing them how to connect with the Creator, then what will eventually happen is, because of the nature of societies, and there is a dominant social norm, is that they may leave Islam, they may become very lonely, isolated, they won't have a sense of belonging, they won't have a sense of certainty. And when those things happen, it could eventually mean that that person is no longer a Muslim. And this is what we don't want. We want them to have a sense of certainty and a sense of belonging. These are two really important things for the new Muslim. Now, this is based on social psychology. For example, social psychology has this concept of informational social influence and normative social influence. These are big words, but let me explain what this means. Informational social influence is about our need to feel certain. So there is a natural disposition, there is something within us, a psychology within us, a drive within us to feel certain about things. And if we don't feel certain, we're going to go to the majority group to try and get our certainty. This is how social norms are developed. Normative social influence is based upon our need to belong. Again, human beings are human beings. We have a drive, a need, a motivation to belong. Now, if you don't belong to a group of people or belong to something, you would eventually belong to the majority, or you want to belong to the kind of, mainstream, or the kind of collective, that seems to be more powerful and dominant. So you would want to belong, even if that dominant collective disagrees with your ideas. You would neglect your ideas, or ignore them, or suspend them, or even not believe in them anymore, just for you to belong. This is the nature. Go check this out for yourself. Informational social influence and normative social influence. So people have the need to feel certain and need to belong. If we are not giving that to the new Muslim, they will try and find it elsewhere. And that's how we have a critical role to play. We have to ensure that they have conviction. And what I mean by conviction is not just intellectual, but it's emotional, spiritual, right? And that they have a kind of, their hearts are convinced in terms of the way they relate to others and the way they relate to Allah. They have a relationship, strong relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they have that conviction. And they must have that sense of belonging, that they feel part of the Muslim community, that they don't feel judged, they don't feel, that people, are suspicious about them, and whatever the case may be. So our role as a Muslim community is to develop, train and empower them and educate them to the point of view that they know their deen, they know Tawheed, they know that Allah deserves worship, and they know how to worship Allah. So they have that spiritual intellectual conviction. And at the same time, they need to feel that belonging. How do you solve that problem? Is by basically inviting them to the masajid, creating spaces within our community that they feel loved, right? And they don't feel judged, and they feel wanted and empowered. So it's critical that we ensure that they have the intellectual spiritual conviction and they have that sense of belonging. If we don't fulfill that role, the dominant kind of mainstream collective, right? The powerful, collective is actually going to fulfill that gap. And from a spiritual point of view, we want them to be connected to Allah, and we want them to feel we want them to have a sense of belonging to our community, because it will strengthen their iman. And at the same time, we don't want this to alienate them from the wider community. No, because we want them now to have that spiritual intellectual conviction. We want them to have that belonging so they could positively contribute to the wider society as well. Because we truly believe being a good Muslim and having a close relationship with Allah would affect non-Muslims as well in a very positive way, because they are our brothers and sisters in humanity. We want to show them the light of Islam. We want to show them how beautiful Islam is, and that we are people of rahmah, of mercy, of tolerance, of hilm, of forbearance. And this is exactly why, we want to empower them as well. So don't forget, that spiritual intellectual conviction and that sense of belonging, if we don't help them with this, they'll find it elsewhere. And if they find it elsewhere, they're more likely to leave the religion. There's some anecdotal evidence, especially in the United States, that 50% of all converts leave Islam because probably they don't have that sense of intellectual spiritual conviction and they don't have that sense of belonging. So let's try and solve the problem together, inshallah.